productions.
Fun fact: we're streaming now.
Are we streaming? Or
Yeah, no. But
hey,
keep
guys.
talking. Keep talking.
Is that they have allowed themselves a blank check to cross that line, and that's a tough line for me to cross. When I get to gore and wow, I want to say pornographic sex. All sex, if you're watching, is.
There's a level of
Todd,
artistry.
You and I are different.
I'm sure we are.
All right.
I think there's a level of artistry to handling all those things in a way that doesn't make the viewer feel like it. I want to phrase that carefully, especially now that we're streaming. There are times when you want to make your viewer feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
Feel the absolute shock and emotion of a moment, and you do that by showcasing in its raw entirety. I get that. Those moments are harder for me. And knowing that about myself is how I dictate my media consumption. But there's also an art to being able to do it in such a way that you can still convey that message and feeling without making me feel really gross.
Last King of Scotland contrasted with Braveheart.
Braveheart gave me a complex, so I have
the two. Well, in both films, you've got a hung, drawn, and quartered, and disemboweled. And the one that was done at the end of Braveheart was uncomfortable to watch, but it was not so gory that I said to myself, I cannot allow any. Because I don't want to Ralph. I don't want to explain it. I don't want to. I just and watching Mel Gibson act through that was painful, but it was not.
Hi, Josh.
It didn't make me want to grow up.
I can see that. Yeah, I can agree.
So, but I also respect the right of the studio house and the production team and the director want to do those. I respect that. I just don't necessarily think that that's where I want to go.
So I have to look up and see what year Braveheart.
2000.
Nope.
No, it was
95.
Earlier, you're right, 95.
So 95, and I have to tell you this because this is legitimately a complex thing. I don't complex
How old were
is
you?
right. 95, I was 9.
Wow.
And I remember it had come out, and it was out on video, and we were at my grandma's house. My grandma and a couple of my aunts watching Braveheart on the television, and I came up and I watched this because my grandma would let me watch R-rated movies.
Your grandma was awesome.
Yeah. Your grandma was that grandma.
Yeah. And I came up with the sequence when they sliced his wife's throat.
Oh yeah, that was awful.
I watched that, and I stayed up there until they got to the part where they cut his throat in revenge. And to this day, things touching my throat will freak me out. I have a major issue of touching my.
Interesting.
It's my wife thinks it's hilarious to mess with it or whatever.
Sorry.
Just like that.
I part of me wanted to say Ryan. The other part of me was sitting there saying, "Nah, this is gonna be good."
Josh, you should see Braveheart. It's great.
So that gave me that complex, and I'm terrified of what show I'm gonna have on that my son's gonna walk in on and develop a complex on because of what I'm watching.
Well, don't let him watch The Boys.
Yeah,
He'll never stand on the edge of a curb again.
I'm currently working on the
Oh,
side show.
okay.
Everybody in the world has been saying, "Greg, you gotta watch Rick and Morty. You would love it," and that is the easiest and most surefire way to get me to not watch something. The whole you would love it. Like, you don't know me.
I don't think you. I think you would be like, all right.
Yeah, that's how I am with most things. But maybe we should actually make an episode.
Maybe we should make an episode
and talk about things that we like or dislike.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
that was Craig nicely saying, "Shut up."
No, that's I'm just saying we've been
We've been making
5 minutes
content.
already.
We've been producing content. That's what we are. That's all we are to you people, right?
Content machines.
We are the content monkeys.
Okay, look. I my new nickname for myself is the bottomless well of content because I've realized I do 3 YouTube videos a week at work. I have this weekly show. I have the weekly trucker podcast. I'm now live streaming here for this. I also write for a couple of websites. It's too much. Like,
yes,
I'd say this isn't to say that I'm now super talented, but my creative muscles are in shape. Like, if you tell me I need a piece of content, damn it, you're getting a piece of content and you're getting it fast. So I could work on my quality, but yeah,
like automation puts out a lot of things too. But
I'm just gonna say, you start with quality, or you start with quantity, and then you get to quality, and then eventually you become the next J.R.R. Tolkien. So I'm just thrilled to be able to watch this develop as a
I want to know what author. I want to know what author or what content creator of this would have been Tolkien at a great match. But simply because of the style of content that we demand nowadays, they never did it.
It's possible. I think
or
that's
what he would be making.
Yeah. What would Tolkien's YouTube page be today?
Or would that even have been? Would that have caused an absolute reaction in a totally different direction?
Get out of here. He would run so fast and far from Reddit. All right, shall we make an episode?
Good to go.
Let's do this.
All right, I didn't.
Really?
Welcome everybody to Legendarium Podcast. This is episode number 237, a summer movie roundup. My name is Craig Hanks, and I'm the host over there. His hair is curly like an Ewok, and he's not nearly so fun to poke. It's Todd Wente.
Jump, 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 jump. You don't want to know what I just said in Ewokese. I'm just saying.
And if anything else besides Goldenrod, it would be his feet that would be worshipped by said Ewoks. It's Ryan James Bruckman.
Yeah, as long as I'm getting worshipped.
Oh.
That's a whole genre, right? Feet worship.
Yeah,
like online.
I'm sure, not personally knowing that. What are you telling me about your search history, Craig?
Did he call you Goldenrod? I'm just wondering.
Goldenrod the foot fetishist. Got it.
You've got
not the internet name I want to stick.
You've got a built-in audience. Start selling those feet. Okay, so here's what you got to know about this episode. First of all, it's already terrible. Second, we are currently live streaming on YouTube. It's actually quite late at night, so I don't expect too many people to pop in, but I do want to give people the opportunity. Totally a surprise live stream. So I'm not expecting a bunch. And third, this is going to be disorganized. It's going to be messy.
No.
It's going to be... basically, this is our chance to let our hair down a little bit. We do a lot of episodes where you got to read all the things. You got to prepare your remarks and be ready to speak intelligently about something. Today, we're just talking about movies and TV that we've seen since Endgame came out. So it's been
about that.
So this is our chance to just kind of talk about how the summer movie as well. So we'll see where it goes from. All right. So I guess my point is, if this is the first time that you're ever
wow.
Sorry about that. Maybe go try and
find a different episode.
Or if you really like this episode, you're probably not going to like the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Congratulations.
There's a dozen other episodes in our backlog that you'll enjoy.
Out of 237. Okay. So let's go ahead.
This is the first time we've had the three of us back together. Well, no, we got together for a photo shoot briefly.
Oh. Did we talk about that?
Oh
Did
yeah.
we talk about that?
Yeah, that didn't quite take the internet as much by storm as we thought.
It got okay traction.
There was a little bit of traction.
No,
I had a few people at work that asked me about the picture.
If you don't, follow us on Twitter. Because every once in a while we post something so heinously disturbing that it will ruin your entire week in a way that you might actually kind of enjoy.
It will probably ruin Craig's congressional run in 10 years.
Oh, that's been ruined for a long time. After 237 episodes of this, you can bet I've said a few things that will come back to haunt me. But yeah, that's not.
Yeah, but a Senate run, that's a totally different deal. I think he's still got the shot for that.
I am the Senate.
So, okay, the first movie that I saw after Endgame was Tolkien, but I kind of want to save that one.
Of course you do. You want to save something intelligent and beautifully crafted for the end.
Well, so I want you guys to start, and we've got a list here that we can. Did either of you see Dark Phoenix or Godzilla or Men in Black?
Dark Phoenix.
You saw Dark Phoenix, right?
Saw Dark Phoenix.
Nope.
Okay, Todd, tell us about Dark Phoenix. How was it? How did it go?
From the standpoint of a fanboy, it was minorly disappointing. I won't say majorly disappointing, but I will say minor. From the standpoint of a movie itself and something of a shot at an X-Men blockbuster for the summer, it was disappointing to the studio and a lot of the fans. It was kind of a nice half-hearted effort to reintroduce things. It was from a story standpoint, it was really a mess. They took from the comic book story of the Dark Phoenix. Jean is supposed to discover her powers. She finds out that she is the most powerful mutant telepath on the planet, and then she finds out that the reason that she is the most powerful mutant telepath is because she is also the host to a cosmic entity called the Phoenix, who gathers power by consuming the life essence of other sentient beings throughout the cosmos. She is being pursued by the Shi'ar Empire, who are trying to stop her in her tracks. Now, in the comic book version of that story, Cyclops and Wolverine and Banshee and all of the X-Men rally around her and try and help her get control over this entity, and they wind up losing a battle between the Shi'ar Guardians and Jean, and Scott winds up holding his lady love dead, and Logan is the one that kills her. And it is a dark story from the Chris Claremont years of storytelling. But it was also one that forged the X-Men to a book that everybody wanted to read. And it really put the X-Men on the map as far as being a comic book. This one, the second effort at trying to tell the Dark Phoenix story, was about as bad as the first one, because they didn't know how to introduce all of those concepts to everybody. And so the Shi'ar became the bad guys, even though in the comic book series the Shi'ar actually become the best friends to the X-Men, wind up finding themselves together. Magneto finds himself trying to stop Jean when in reality Magneto was nowhere near. And we also learn one piece of information at the very beginning, set the whole thing up. That was that it was an accident. Oh, should we have said spoilers? Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, you know what? No one saw Dark Phoenix.
Except me, right?
Phoenix.
Yeah. In fact, I'm probably not going to catch it when it comes out on video either.
Why would you?
I won't get it on Blu-ray unless it's just to make a collection of all the failed X-Men franchises. It had such potential. Special effects were quite fun. The way that they handled Cyclops and Jean's relationship looked like it was going to be really good. But there were so many fragmented pieces of what was going on. And you had Jennifer Lawrence in the middle of it as Mystique getting killed, which, again, never happened. It's such a total reversal and reinvention of the storyline.
Her character, look, I tickle anything I say with salt, but her character shouldn't have ever been what it was in these movies. Anyway,
No.
It is what it became because Jennifer Lawrence became a star. When
Yes.
she started, a few people were like, "Oh yeah, no, I remember her from whatever it was,
But as
Hunger
soon
Games
as
or something." But then, as soon as her star really, really rose,
as soon as you have Oscar winner Jennifer Lawrence as part of your credits,
you write her into everything, right? And from what I've heard, this is one of her worst performances of all time, simply because she did not care. She's not interested in the role anymore. Please kill me off.
Oh, and they did.
I'm done.
In spectacular fashion. It's one of those movies that had such good promise, really wonderful promise, and I think the filmmakers did everything that they wanted to do. It just was not a storyline that could survive all of the editing and all of the changing that popular kind of a view.
I honestly didn't go see this, but I honestly think that the Dark Phoenix story shouldn't be told in a single film. Like, and I'm not saying you need to make a 3-piece Dark Phoenix trilogy or whatever. Like, you can, but with what they had done with this new generation of X-Men, this new casting and everything here, that grouping is not far enough along. Those relationships aren't firmly cemented enough to carry the emotional impact of what this story needs to be.
Absolutely.
So you don't have the foundation to tell the Dark Phoenix story here. You have to tell it over multiple films where they're doing other things. So you say, okay, and we've built, this relationship between Jean and Scott in the first one here, and it's gone here, and this is where the Logan portion of it's getting, messed in there as well. So I watched this and went, nope, too soon, and the last one you did wasn't that strong, so I don't think you're ready to be doing this story.
Now, I will say that the actress who played Jean, Sophie Turner, did a great job with the role.
Oh, really?
I was very impressed with what she did, and with how well she did the different pieces that she needed to do, because she spent a lot of time on wire. She was suspended in the air for a lot of the film, and I recognize that takes a toll on somebody. So trying to act and do all the other things you have to do while you are held on a crane in a harness that's digging into your ribs and all those other kinds of things. I watched that and I said to myself, wow, she's really doing some good stuff right now. And her interactions with Magneto, and her interactions with the character that played Scott, sorry, I'm totally forgetting your name. But
he's listening.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Well, because his career has taken such an upswing since Dark Phoenix.
He's the guy who was the main character in Ready Player One, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
But there was some great interaction. There was some good acting, but the story just wasn't compelling enough to really make it take off.
So Dark Phoenix, we good on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So.
It's already gotten more
I think
in-depth discussion than it got.
I think we've given it more than just about any other media outlet did. So, and I was kind.
Yeah, I think you might have been. So, okay, let's move on to a different one. We got that one out of the way. So, did anybody see Godzilla or Men in Black? I did not. No. Okay, that's fine. Neither did anyone else.
I would Netflix Men in Black if I spotted it. I don't care about
totally.
Godzilla.
It's on my list of movies to catch when it comes to the dollar theater, and I think it's there now. So I might be seeing it next week.
I liked the last Godzilla. I mean, the one that had almost no Godzilla in it.
That's what I hate about Godzilla.
Aside from that, I liked it, as a movie. So
I loved Godzilla growing up. I had a Godzilla themed birthday party one year.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this about
I
you.
believe this, though.
It was when it was before you and I met. I was like 7. I lived in West Bountiful, and we had a sleepover party, and I rented 3 Godzilla movies, and that's what we watched all night. And yeah, we're going to turn into a therapy session here really quick. But I used to love Godzilla.
Until...
by the way, guess who's watching the live stream currently? One Megan Smythe.
No kidding.
So hi,
Megan.
She says that Men in Black is on her, or Godzilla is on her red box plan. Men in Black, yeah.
Men in Black. Okay.
So if we haven't seen those, let's not talk about those. Right.
Hey, can I say one thing that's funny about the Godzilla tie-in? My wife and I just got done watching on Netflix an episode of DC Legends of Tomorrow, and in that there's one that they do about Japanese monster movies in the 1950s, and when it finishes, one of the characters looks at the guy and says, "Hey, you really need to think about lizards. Give up on octopus." And as he walks away, the guy says, "Monsters, king of kaiju?" And all of a sudden, we can see it coming. Oh, that's where Godzilla is born. It was quite an entertaining little tie-in.
Okay, all right. So I want to move on to a different one. Ryan, you're a massive Disney Pixar guy.
Yep.
And I do mean massive. You are just, it's getting out of control.
Yeah.
What are you, 145 pounds now? Okay, so have you seen Toy Story 4?
Yes. I have seen Toy Story 4.
Okay, so I have not. Todd?
I have not.
Okay, so Ryan, you're holding down the fort on this one. How was it?
So Toy Story 4, I think, is a great story. It's really enjoyable. I will say this is my one caveat to it. I don't think it fits with the first 3. I would not have called this Toy Story 4.
Wait, you mean the movie that was made 15 years after the franchise was dead and buried doesn't feel like the rest of the franchise? Personally, I'm shocked.
No, well,
Personally, I'm shocked that Ryan could say that.
yeah,
I'm,
I know.
I'm surprised that he has anything.
My Disney overlord should
He
be
has a
coming through the door
critique.
any moment. Yeah,
with a brand
yeah.
for so you're gonna put it in your back and like you'll one more time and it's
and
the
then
Iron
your band.
Maiden.
Yeah, no, it's so the thing is, Toy Story 4. This story is much like the other Toy Stories. It is aimed to tell a story that is fit for the generation that grew up with it. It will still work as a children's story for today, but it's about moving on. That's the idea. Spoiler alert.
So it's not for kids now. It's for the parents of the kids, the parents who saw it when they were kids.
I would say, yeah, like the main storyline, the main crux there is going to resonate more with the parents of children than otherwise. My son really likes Toy Story 4, but he loves Duke Kaboom and he loves Forky. He loves these other little characters because they're fun and they're enjoyable. That's what, so he enjoys that portion of it. But the message of the story, he just kind of like, that's great. That's great. Like, he gets it. He explains to me the whole concept of Forky thinking that he's trash. But yeah, it resonates more with my generation who grew up with Toy Story because it's about Woody moving on. This character who, for the longest time, has been all about stay together, stay as we're a family, take care of the kids first. Finally deciding that he's going to move on. And he does this through this adventure where he finds Bo Peep. They go. He's trying to basically keep this other character Forky, who keeps trying to throw himself away because he is trash. He was born of trash. He was made of a spork and a bunch of other trash pieces, and so he's trying to just fulfill his purpose by getting thrown away. And so he keeps having to save the character and bring him back to Bonnie.
Right.
And in this whole ordeal, he finds Bo Peep and kind of goes through this whole thing about being a lost toy. And they save Forky, get everything pulled together, and there's a moment where he has to decide, is he going to get in the RV with all the other toys, or is he going to stay with Bo Peep and these new toys and explore life, being free and being able to play with any kid out there, being able to do whatever, and he decides to stay with them.
Right. And
for a lot of people, that has not sat well with them. In terms of they felt that the end, some people felt that the end was not justified. It wasn't a good decision. I think it was. I am okay with this. I am okay with the decision that was made and Woody moving on. The show itself, it's really, it's a very emotional piece, and I really enjoy that. But it doesn't feel like the Toy Story adventures of the first three. It feels like the story of Woody moving on,
Sure.
And so
a little more like philosophical.
Yeah, it's a little more that like it
adult themed,
and it's also a breaking point where they can start and say, hey, we're going to go ahead and if we do any more Toy Story franchise stuff, it's going to be a different crew that you see.
Please, dear Lord, no.
And they'll go with that, and they will probably do that more along the lines of like television series and things like that versus doing movies. So that's what they've set themselves up for there.
Hey, I would see a whole film about the little army men. I would watch that. That would be entertaining.
Did they do a short?
They did a short. They did a short, but I would watch one with the kids playing with the army men and the army men trying to figure out how to save themselves from getting melted and everything. I would watch that.
It could be fun to have a series with their little missions and things like that. But yeah, I think this.
So overall, you liked it.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It deserves the praise it's gotten. It deserves high rankings, and you should see it if you've seen the others. Just realize it's going to feel slightly different than those.
I want your ranking, bottom to top, worst to best. Toy Stories.
Okay, I will go. 1
is the worst.
So sorry, bottom to top. No. Oh gosh, this is harder.
It's got to go 2, 4, 3, 1. I haven't even seen 4, and that's the only acceptable ranking.
I might switch 4 and I might switch 4 and 3 on a given day, but I wouldn't fight you for it.
So something about me, I do not seek out unpopular opinions to have. I just have them. Okay? Here's my unpopular opinion for this portion of our discussion today.
Only for this portion.
Yeah, and that is Toy Story, overrated. Toy Story is overrated. It is not that good. That's not to say it's bad.
Let me make sure I understand. You didn't try to formulate that. You just came by that on your own.
I'm just saying. No. I'm just saying that, like, I know for a lot of people out there, the majority of people out there, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? It's one of the greatest, most groundbreaking, achievements in animation and all that." And I get it, from a technical standpoint and all that stuff, and I like them fine, but the sort of fervor around the Toy Story franchise, I do not understand. I think it's misplaced. I just don't think that they are worthy of the devotion that people give to them. And I can remember the feelings I had from each one, as far as whether I liked it or loved it or not, except for number 4 now. But I can only remember flashes of images from each one, including the first one, like all the creepy toys crawling out from under the bed. Or in the second one, it's the little green guys and the toy catcher machine thing, whatever it's called. In the third one, it's the incinerator. These are the only things I remember from the movies, and I don't remember any context around them. They are ultimately extremely forgettable, obviously, and I hope Toy Story dies.
Obviously, you either drank too much or too little Kool-Aid when you were growing up, and that's why you feel that way. Either that or you're 3 churros short of what you should be having as far as Disney churros, and that's just the way it goes.
By the way, Cosmere Podcast, who is tuned in on the live stream, says distant sequels can work. Incredibles 2, Mad Max Fury Road, Blade Runner 2049, Tron Legacy.
Wait a minute, Blade Runner 2049?
Now look, some people hated it, some people really loved it.
Okay.
But my response to this is, you named 4 really great examples of exceptions that prove the rule. Okay, like if your batting average is 125, you're on the bench.
Hold on though. That's 4 examples, but how many other franchises have that long distance between, like,
even having sequels that long of a distance?
I can think of like Dumb and Dumber 2, maybe, or Anchorman 2.
That didn't wait 15 years in between them, though.
Anchorman 2, that was at least 10 years.
But that 10 years isn't 15.
Oh my gosh, are we really
I'm
nitpicking?
not going to argue that's semantic, but I'm sitting here going like, okay, 4, let's go 4, 5 out of probably, like, you're talking batting average. I bet this is batting around, the
250?
300, 350, somewhere around that mark.
I wouldn't give it 350, but I'd give it 250.
A third of these that are long distance, because if you're going that far, like if there's that much distance in between the sequels, you're either really reaching for something, or it was a strong enough foundation to build on that it's you can come back to it.
Maybe.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Then look, you take it up with Cosmere Podcast.
Well,
I think I'm on the side of Cosmere Podcast.
I recognize that.
They believe they have zinged me because movies are bad because my memory. And it's like, look, think of your favorite movies and think of the movies that stand the test of time, and you remember a lot about them. The ones that just kind of skim over the surface of your mind and never leave an impression. Not great movies. For that reason,
Okay.
I would say that that's not a strong argument for Toy Story because the majority of people sit on the side of having that stronger recollection.
That's why I'm saying this is an unpopular opinion. I get it. I'm airing it. Okay, let's move on to a different movie, shall we? Should we talk about Tolkien first or John Wick first?
There's a lot of headshots in both. So.
Neither of you saw Tolkien.
No, I did not.
Did either of you see John Wick?
I haven't seen any of the John Wicks.
What?
I haven't seen any of the John Wicks.
What?
Oh my word.
Neither of the other two?
No, I have not seen any of John Wicks. I know the premise of the story. Like, I know what's going on. I've followed enough. I've watched enough little clips and stuff to be able to have a conversation about John Wick.
So I will say this. John Wick 3, Parabellum, because that's the full title of the film. Right?
John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum.
John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. The timing for that coming out was so disadvantageous for me because it was was the wrong week, starting the wrong month, starting the wrong block of time, because it was right about when the show was that I'm just finishing directing was coming out, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. And so all of my brain power has been focused in a different direction. But my daughter and I, much to my wife's chagrin, have been saying, okay, because she's also been involved in producing this show. And so now that the show is on its feet, we've been kind of comparing notes, saying, when do we get to find it in a theater so we can go see it on a big screen? And we're having a tough time finding any place that's still screening it, so we may wind up just sitting really close to the television downstairs and watching it when it comes out on DVD. I have followed just about all of the press releases and a bunch of the interviews that were being done around the film. I am very excited about that film. I just haven't been able to watch it.
So I've seen all three, possibly more than once. I love them. So one of my favorite things, this won't be a full review. I mean, you can go read all the full reviews you want. But John Wick 3, I think, accomplishes exactly what it sets out to do, which is to be more of what you saw in John Wick 1 and 2. More headshots, more gun fu, more of all that stuff. They do change it up a little bit where it's a little less gun-centric, although there's plenty of that. But it's, a lot more hand-to-hand, knife fighting, hatchets to the skull, that sort of thing. From a distance. It's sweet. But what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, so with John Wick 3, one of my favorite things about this franchise, really, is that while the first one was kind of a surprise culturally, right?
Yes.
Nobody could have suspected that it would be that big.
Including the filmmakers themselves.
Right, have this much of an
revenge
impact.
flick? Didn't realize that was going to be such a huge hit.
But what I like about them is just how mindless and simple they really are. And so there's no such thing as a spoiler alert for a John Wick movie. It's not a thing.
No.
I can tell you John Wick kills bad guys, goes on the run, kills more bad guys, hunts bad guys, almost dies, doesn't die.
And you would not be surprised at that. That's not a spoiler.
Right. Ryan could have written the synopsis without having seen any of these movies. But that's kind of...
John Wick Chapter 4.
but that's kind of what I like about the franchise is that, I don't want every movie to be this way. I like other styles of movies, but, you kind of want to cycle in and out of certain things. You don't want to see the exact same movie over and over again.
John Wick does not require you to go in ready to engage all of your brain cells to figure the film out. John Wick, any of the John Wick films, is, let's just go in and see how many moments of gunfire can be punctuated by the sound of breaking glass and people going, "I'll get you."
Well, they established an emotional baseline for the whole thing by killing his dog and saying, okay, this is a good enough reason to kill 72.
It wasn't. You've got John Wick's car. Get out of my shop. The other thing that I think is pretty interesting, though, about the John Wick franchise, this whole 3 films has taken, 72 hours?
It's more than that now. It's
with 3 because they've traveled to
right. It's probably a couple weeks.
So
but still,
yes.
John Wick has aged 10 years in 2
I have
weeks.
to ask you guys: Have you guys seen the honest trailer for John Wick 3?
No, not yet.
It's quite funny. Everyone out there on YouTube right now, you should eventually go over and watch that. And once you tear away from this riveting bit of information, but there's a section on there that talks about the amazing cinematography of John Wick. It's showing an action sequence that doesn't rely on quick cuts and everything, and so, whatever. It's how is Liam Neeson going to jump a fence in Taken 4? Because then it cuts to this thing where it's 17 different angles of Liam Neeson trying to jump a fence, and then they show John Wick doing this cartwheel over somebody all in a one shot, cartwheel, gunshot, headshot, knife throw, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty astounding.
And that, for me, that's the reason. That would be the reason for me to want to watch John Wick. I'm having to balance the idea of not really enjoying watching people get shot in the head and wanting to see the high level of skill that the second unit had to have to pull off all the stunts and things like that in these shots without using the camera tricks of, all right, now cut to this camera so we don't see this moment. And
right.
Yeah.
You guys ready for some viewer responses? We've had a couple good comments.
Sure.
Last minute. So Seth is very disappointed in you, Ryan. Josh is not. Rock on, Ryan. Josh also says, there's nothing to see that you haven't seen in any other such movie. Oh, man, I couldn't disagree more. Cosmere Podcast. Oh, no, we'll get to that in a second. Seth also says, it's a ripping good yarn.
Yes!
And Spook, I love this. John Wick is punching the movie. So,
they understand us. They understand us.
Cosmere Podcast says, I'm waiting for Craig to spend half the episode gushing about Hobbs and Shaw. Oh, we'll get there.
I'm excited. This is the other one that the timing for that film has just really disappointed me. I may be taking the day off of work. Wait, is anybody from work watching this? I may be sick tomorrow.
I have to tell you guys this. This is from years and years of knowing Craig. I don't know that I have seen Craig be more excited about a film since we were going to go see Revenge of the Sith and things
really?
Like that.
Yeah, that's possible. No, I was pretty excited for Star Wars 7.
Oh, The Force Awakens.
That one.
Yes. I think I didn't quite hone in as much on your excitement because I was also
you were on another freaking planet with that one.
I was looking at the signs of my the second coming of my religious experience returning.
Should we just talk about Hobbs and Shaw?
Should you talk about Hobbs and Shaw? Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah. We'll do Hobbs and Shaw, then we'll do another one that you guys have seen, and then we'll get to Tolkien after that. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay, so Hobbs and Shaw. Hobbs and Shaw is the 8th or 9th film in the Fast and Furious franchise. This one's kind of a spin-off with The Rock and Jason Statham's characters. From previous films, they do not like each other, they do not get along, which is the first prerequisite for a buddy cop movie. You can't like each other, at least not at the beginning, right? So in this movie, it is 2 hours and 15 minutes, maybe more, 2:20, something like that, and they go everywhere. Okay, not really. They're in London, they're in Russia, they're in Samoa, lots of locations, but it also...
In true Fast and Furious fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. So it also stars Vanessa Kirby as Jason Statham's character's little sister. She is an MI6 agent. And then Idris Elba is the bad guy. He's Black Superman, as he calls himself in the movie. And he's a kind of cybernetically enhanced character. He's more machine now than man. And all that sort of thing. But because of this, and this is where I really love the Fast and Furious franchise. If you go back and watch the first movie, if you were to only see number 1 and now number 9, you'd go, wait, what? Where's the connective thread here? This doesn't make any sense. And I am 100% fine with this. This is... I like the first movie. I haven't seen Tokyo Drift, but I think that's the only one. And I haven't seen any entry in the franchise that I haven't at least liked.
Really?
If not loved. How
have I not known this about you?
Yeah, I really like the Fast and Furious franchise.
I have only seen the first one.
Okay, I'm not surprised by that at all.
Right.
But my appreciation for you, Craig, has just gone up several notches.
And that's odd. That's odd that it would happen now.
It very much is, but I'm all aboard.
So this one, so what I love is that they have really leaned into just how ridiculous this is. This is so stupid. Come on. In the first one, the idea that the fate of the LA criminal underworld would be decided, a quarter mile at a time. It's ridiculous. This is so stupid. And so they just said, you know what? Every movie, they ramp it up more and more and more. This has no connection to reality. It's just, it's like, this is picking up where James Bond left off with the Casino Royale remake in 2006. When that one came out, which I love, don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore that movie, but it did kind of jettison the goofy, let's do space lasers version of James Bond in a lot of ways, and so this franchise has kind of picked up on that stuff, because there's still an audience for it, right? Obviously, I am one of them. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm sure it's doing well this weekend. So anyway, I love the movie. Idris Elba is fantastic. He's fantastic in just about every single thing that he decides to try his hand at. And Vanessa Kirby, wow. I feel a little bit like Ken here. Like, you shouldn't comment on how attractive an actress is, but here's why I kind of want to comment on this. This woman is so gorgeous that I demand that she be cast in the new Amazon Lord of the Rings movie or show. She is already just 100% elf-like. She's incredibly good looking, but she also has that kind of elfin quality.
So you found your new Galadriel?
Yeah, 100%. Yes, stand her on a box. I understand she's short. That's fine. Do what you got to do. She's perfect. Aside from that, she actually carries a lot of weight in this movie, standing next to freaking Jason Statham and The Rock. She actually has some like physicality to show, which I was really impressed by. I wasn't expecting to believe this actress from, was it The Crown that she was in, to kick butt in a Fast and Furious movie, but she did. She was really believable. So yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think of what else I can say about it. It was, if anything, I think I made this joke on our little private Facebook chat, but I wanted to say it's 100% of everything that you look for in a Fast and Furious movie these days, but it's actually probably 110% because it's just too long. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes is too much for this. It should have been trimmed down about 30 minutes. There's a lot of jokes between Jason Statham and The Rock that are funny, but that are carried on way too long. But they really kind of leaned into that. Oh, we don't like each other, and we're going to quip at each other for 5 minutes on the plane.
Based on looking at on seeing the previews and some of the extended trailers and some of the other footage that they've leaked, it looks very much like what they've done is they've taken all of the things that Dwayne Johnson has been doing in a lot of his other films, like with Chris Rock and what was the one that he did?
Jumanji?
And Jumanji with...
the new trailer for the new Jumanji looks amazing.
It looks like they've taken a lot of those same kinds of joke fodder and thrown it into this, because who knew that The Rock was going to be so blasted funny? He carries off that pretty well, and I think they found... I think the makers of the franchise have said, if it's working everywhere else, why not play to that strength?
Well, it's a bit like when Chris Hemsworth turned out to be hilarious, and suddenly the Thor movies were comedies.
Yes.
Right, or whatever. There's only been one of those. There's another one coming up.
There's another one coming up.
Whatever else he's done, even outside of that, it's like, no, I saw Ghostbusters. We're leaning into this.
Yeah.
It's so loud.
Is it?
It's my favorite part of that movie. So loud.
What? A favorite part of what?
Ghostbusters.
You remember something about that movie?
I like that movie. Oh. It's good.
That was last summer.
Honestly, the worst movie instincts I've ever seen.
No,
wait a minute.
I am just very capable of... I can look at a movie and say, that's a bad movie. I can tell it's a bad movie. But I can also just enjoy the movies just for what they are.
Sometimes a bad movie is more enjoyable because it's a bad movie. And because the movie knows it's a bad movie and it's just going to be what it is.
Well, and the thing is, like, we don't want to go down the tangent of Ghostbusters too much there, but it's not a bad movie.
It's a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie.
Bad movie.
It's a movie from my perspective, it's a movie in the vein of Buckaroo Banzai.
No. Get out. Get
Stop.
out. There's nothing redeeming about Ghostbusters 2016 except the comedic stylings of Chris Hemsworth. Okay. Look, are we really going to... We've talked about Ghostbusters on the podcast before.
This moment right here is what... We are unfortunately in front of a YouTube viewing audience, and to all of our listeners, establishing some sort of film credential so that people know how serious to take our...
I have no credentials.
How serious to take what we say. Like, yes, this man clearly knows what he's talking about movies. He loved 2016's Ghostbusters. Like... I wouldn't trust me, but I really think it's a good...
I defy you to watch the Mr. Plinkett review of Ghostbusters 2016 and come away from it not understanding that it is one of the worst movies ever made.
I will try that. I will go watch the Mr. Plinkett's review and whatever there.
I think I think that needs to be a Mystery Science 3000 kind of a deal. We watch it.
We'll live stream me watching it here, and then you have
listen to the comments. I would
a
be
rebuttal
for that.
I will rebut Mr. Plinkett.
We'll have some fun.
Best of luck to you.
Hey, Now I need to bring up a movie. I can't remember where it fell in the timing. Did anybody else see Shazam?
Shazam came out after Endgame. It literally just hit video like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, because I saw that. I saw that with my family. We went into the theater, and I have to admit, I quite enjoyed the film.
Yeah, Shazam's great. I shouldn't say great. Shazam is good.
Shazam was worth watching.
It's very enjoyable. I watched it because of Zachary Levi. I cut my teeth with him on Chuck back in the day, and I loved him in that. So I was happy to go see him do something else. He's kind of apparently had a pretty rough time after Chuck, and maybe even at the tail end of it, dealing with mental health stuff, and so he kind of dropped off the radar for a while, not doing so many projects, and this was kind of his triumphant return to a leading man role. And whatever the merits of the movie, I think people can argue about whether the movie's good, and that's fine. But he's great.
Yeah,
in that one. So.
Did a wonderful job. I think the movie went. I mean, as a comic book movie, everybody expects me to say, how did it compare to the original source material, Todd? It was okay. I mean, obviously, it's a modern telling of the Billy Batson situation. But in introducing the entire Shazam family, the way that they did toward the end of the film, they did a wonderful job with it.
Shazamly.
I'm never calling it that. But it was the only thing that I was disappointed with is that I was watching a Christmas movie in July, and I wanted to walk out and put on my coat and pull it tight around me, because that's what Christmas movies do for me. It was obviously prepared and designed to be kicked out during the holiday movie block, and I don't know whether they missed it last year or they just wanted to get it out earlier this year, but one way or another, watching a movie where they had Christmas lights, personally, very satisfying. We sang Christmas songs as we walked out, which to my wife was just the most worthless thing in the world to do. But I really quite enjoyed it. Had a good time watching the film.
All right. Well, I think we do one more before the Tolkien discussion, and that is we've got to talk about the relative artistic abominations, of which we've had two since Endgame, and that is the Disney live-action remakes. So let's talk about those. Ryan, have you seen both?
Nope.
Aladdin and Lion King? Neither?
Nope. Haven't seen them.
Todd?
But I will already tell you I am on the side of
Disney.
It's not as bad as you're making it out to be.
Aladdin isn't as bad. I couldn't even finish Beauty and the Beast or Jungle Book. What was the other one that came out between Beauty and the Beast and now? Dumbo, never even. I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Didn't enjoy the cartoon.
Exactly. Some of the decisions on which ones to make have been odd. Aladdin wasn't as bad, but it definitely suffers from, hey, let's take this kids movie that held kids' attention for 90 minutes and extend it a half hour. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. But there is absolutely no reason for it to exist beyond money.
There is obviously an audience that wanted it. Congratulations, they took their money. I think this is a pretty classic example of Disney creating a market where there is none. Okay.
And the world and the art that we enjoy would have been just fine had they not created that market. This is one of those things where they could have put their time and attention toward a new artistic venture, but they went the safe route of saying, no, we're guaranteed to make, to net $200 million on every single one of these at minimum. $200 million in profit. Yeah, we're going to go the safe route and make them.
Which will allow us to build Star Wars Land.
Yes and no, because Disney does not need to play safe. The spread of things that they are putting out, like their release of everything, every film ever being made currently, it feels like, especially with their acquisition of Fox, like there's no okay, we're gonna play it safe on this so we make sure we make the money. This is them I genuinely think the purpose of all these live action remakes is to give this next generation a point to grab onto and say, oh, okay, here's these. The cartoons work fine. I don't think it would be a terrible thing if they weren't made. It's You're not going to hurt the cartoons by making these. You're not going to help the cartoons by making these. But I think it is a way.
But it is a different audience. It is a different market. It's a different time.
I watch it, for example, with like my son watching things on television. The art and animation styles that he enjoys watching versus that, they're not the same.
Yeah.
But
that's funny because like the thing that I enjoyed most about Aladdin was I took my son to see it. That's the only reason I saw it, is because we were doing like, it was last day of kindergarten. Let's go celebrate. We'll go see a movie. And so I took him to Aladdin so that the next day I could say, "Hey, did you like that movie? Do you want to watch it again?" And I just put in the cartoon, and he barely even noticed. And now he's like, "Oh yeah, I love Aladdin. That show's great." And he'll forget the live action one, and that was kind of how I gatewayed him into the good stuff. The first one's free, and all that.
Wow.
So.
We now know how you brainwash your children.
I'm
100%.
I'm going to be speechless on that.
So I haven't seen The Lion King, partly because the clips that they released, the trailers that they released, didn't just make me uninterested, but The Lion King in particular looks offensive to me compared to the original. So I'm not going to be seeing that one.
Okay.
Yeah. The Hakuna Matata clip they released all over social media right before the movie hit was like, it was so bad. It just made me shiver.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
What?
Bad.
Let's see. Cosmere Podcast says, let me know when they decide to get weird with it and do a live action Lilo and Stitch.
Hey.
Treasure Planet or Emperor's New Groove, which I would actually say, okay, you can do Emperor's New Groove and I won't throw a fit if you have David Spade play the Emperor again. that is a requirement. If you can do that, then I'll see it. So, and then Spook says they better not do Emperor's New Groove. Well, okay.
We'll see which one of you gets your wish.
Should we do? Oh gosh, we've been going for a little while already. Should we do Tolkien?
Should you do Tolkien?
Yeah, it's been a little while. So you guys haven't seen that one.
Have not.
I was very excited for this for obvious reasons. I try not to have too many expectations if it's not a Disney live action movie. Going in, I try not to set my heart before I go into the movie, and so I was excited for it, but I was ready to either like it or dislike it, and I loved it. I loved it. There are complaints that are leveled against it from people who are, like me, big fans of not just The Lord of the Rings, but of Tolkien himself, and so they know a lot about him and have read the biographies and stuff. And so some people have some complaints about those, and I get that. And they're kind of correct. There's a lot that is fabricated, at least fabricated with good intent most of the time. Like, okay, there's this kind of amalgamation of events or people in his life, and so we're going to create a scene that kind of shows that, but that scene never happened, and we're going to throw that into the movie. For the most part, I thought those additions were great. There were a couple of times where, like there's a scene where Tolkien is getting kicked out of Oxford, and so he gets drunk on the quad and starts yelling in, I can't remember if he's yelling in Elvish or if he's yelling in, or he didn't have Elvish at that point, but it would have been Old Norse or something along those lines. I can't remember, but he's just,
some Scandinavian sounding language.
Yeah, speaking it like Teutonic or something like that. Like that never happened. Tolkien isn't going to go out and get drunk on the quad, no matter how depressed he is. Like that. So there were a couple of moments where I was like, But what it did was, like I said, it intelligently repackaged certain parts of his life to tell the story in a cohesive way. And it tells two stories. One would be how he fell in love with Edith, who eventually became his wife, and how he became friends with the TCBS. So there's this group of 4 friends throughout high school. They called themselves the Tea Club and Barovian Society because they would go drink tea at Barrow's in London. in Oxford, and so they were the Barovian Society, and they became very, very close, and then they all went off to war, and two of them never came back, and Tolkien's relationship with the other remaining survivor was never quite the same. They didn't ever have that closeness that they did previously. But those two, I call them the two love stories in the movie. I thought they were both done really, really well. And so it accomplished its purpose, which was to tell a narrow part of Tolkien's life. There are two narrow parts of his life at that point. And I thought it performed admirably. Ryan, you're ready to make fun of me. Go for it.
I'm not making fun of you.
Okay.
It's a trend I'm noticing in Hollywood, and I'm going to say something, and the initial reaction of a lot of people is going to be, "How dare you, you dirty, rotten son of a..."
I can't wait to hear this.
Ryan, son of a what?
Son of a buck.
But this is more about the trend than saying this fits this here. There's been a trend lately of taking historical figures and writing a hard line between the reality of their lives and the fictionalization of the film here, because they did the same thing in a slightly different direction. Don't get angry at me here. With P.T. Barnum.
Yes, they did.
In The Greatest Showman.
Yes, they did.
They made him a good guy in Greatest Showman when he really wasn't a good guy. But it's the same basic concept of saying, okay, hey, there's aspects of this story that we like and we want to tell, but the rest we're going to tweak and change a little bit here and make the fiction fit our narrative here.
Right.
And not knowing the story of Tolkien's life, not having that depth of knowledge that you would have going into it, I don't know if I would be able to tell the difference between the fiction and the reality.
And this is where I think I appreciate this biopic. Is that where we've landed as a society?
Yeah.
Biopic or biopic?
Biopic.
I go with biopic. Most everyone else I hear is biopic.
Right. Anyway,
really?
with this one, that's why I like this one over some of the other ones, where, you know, the Bohemian Rhapsody or Rocket Man, or the P.T. Barnum, what was it, Greatest Showman. Where they're doing is exactly what you described, Ryan. In this one, I feel like, with the exception of a few moments that I thought were a little bit tonally off, I thought that the filmmakers did a great job with staying true to who he was as a young man. There were some omissions. They omitted almost all of the Catholicism, which is a huge part of his life, but I understand that that's a can of worms that would add 45 minutes to the running time that you just can't do. They could have hit a little bit harder on his sense of duty, which was why he didn't see Edith for 2 years when he was forbidden by his guardian from seeing her. You know, like, so there were things that I might have played up a little bit more, but they didn't do anything to say, like, you know, this part of him is great, but we're going to just kind of leave out the other stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they did that. Like, if you made, it might be a little bit different today, I don't know, but 5-10 years ago, if you made a biopic about Ronald Reagan, then, you know, you might omit that, what was it, 1971, in some conversation that was recorded, he's making these racist remarks, you know, as rich white men were wont to do in the 70s, right? And Reagan was no exception to that at the time, but we don't remember him for that, you know.
Yeah.
And so when you make the movie, you're like, no, we just want to make it about what people remember him for. Same with like Martin Luther King or whoever, where we leave certain things out. And so I'm okay with it to a certain extent, but I don't feel like they did that too much with this movie.
The interesting thing, I think, that too, is that it's something that it's a thing that you have to do when you're doing it as a film. I contrast that with what they did for John Adams as an HBO miniseries.
One of my favorite miniseries of all time.
And I kind of balk at the fact that they call it a miniseries. It was what, 8 episodes long, 6 episodes long. Miniseries to me was always 3, and you know, if it was longer than that, it was a series, whatever. But in that one, again, they had pieces that they combined, that they changed, that there was timing that they adjusted. There were some glaring pieces of his life that the way that they were handled in the medium were completely disconnected with what reality was. But again, most of that film they stayed as true as they could, but they had the opportunity to stay even truer to that story because they had, 10 hours of film to be able to portray all of the subtleties of the change, and all of the different pieces of that change. Whereas when you're dealing with 2 hours, I get the fact that you have to create. You've got to fabricate
narrow in
some
on
things.
the story.
And it's a choice that's made in the medium. So I'm glad that from your standpoint that they did a good job with that. I'm also glad that it stayed close to just that portion of his life, because with so much of his life to be told, I'm kind of expecting this to turn into a trilogy, and we'll be seeing Tolkien 3, The Writing of the Dwarves, or whatever it's going to be called.
This will not be a trilogy. I think it grossed, like, worldwide, it grossed less than 10 million.
And it's probably too bad.
Maybe closer to 5. Yeah, I feel not too great about that. I am but one man. I hyped it as much as I could, but whatever.
And you couldn't even get me and Ryan to go see it when it was in the theater.
I know. I did just buy the Blu-ray, so that's going to be here on Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to having that in the house.
You
with
know that we're
with
going to be
Tolkien,
required to watch that at some point.
Eventually.
Yeah. Oh, Todd, you will bawl like a little girl.
I'm sure I will.
100%.
With enough things going on in my life, all you have to do is say, "Yeah, he had this moment." I'm Gary. Everybody knows that now.
So
it's not a surprise.
The final word on Tolkien is I hope that if you haven't seen it, that you do. If you're at all interested in the subject matter. If you don't care, if you don't like The Lord of the Rings, you don't care about Tolkien, then fine, skip it. But if you do have some inkling that you do care, that you do care about it, then go for it.
Bad pun.
That was an accidental one.
It was not.
If what was I going to say? Oh yeah, if you feel like you're just a little bit interested, I would actually say then definitely see it, because one of the things I like about a movie like this is that it gives you those little snippets. It gives you the scenes that you think are charming or interesting or funny or heartbreaking or whatever, and it makes you want to go learn more about it. And that's what I would want from this. But I of course, I say that as somebody who just loves Professor Tolkien and learning about him and kind of idolizing him in a way. And so of course I say that.
Kind of idolizing him?
Get
Okay.
it.
So maybe we should move on and talk about a different film.
Are you ready? Do you
am.
have one that you want to do?
I have one.
Okay, what is it?
That I think the two of you have also seen and would like to talk about.
We actually have one that we can all input on.
Spider-Man.
Okay.
Far From Home.
Let's see. We are about an hour into this, so
we've got 2 minutes, is what you're saying.
No, well, we got a few more things to talk about. So yeah, let's try to make a few of these kind of snappy. So Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. There's a couple of things about Spider-Man that were a lot of fun. The first one, at least for me, is that they did not miss the opportunity to connect it very clearly to Endgame. They talked about, how many of our classmates had disappeared. We've got a whole bunch of them that have come back that were gone for 5 years, and now they're all back. We're glad to have them. We're going to take them all on tour to Europe. Thank you for not shying away from it. Thank you for recognizing it and making sure that they integrated that story from the Marvel Studios into the Sony Studios, and trying to further connect those two pieces of the Marvel universe. I really wondered if they were going to shy away from it or embrace it, and I'm glad they embraced it. The humor for a Spider-Man flick, I thought, was spot on. Lots of things that made the Spider-Man comic book series fun showed up in this film.
How much of a star is Zendaya? She is funny. Like, I don't know much about her outside of these Spider-Man movies that she's done.
Yeah.
Now, a couple times, but so she's probably already a big star.
She is quite a bit of a star.
But even like from my perspective, I'm like, this girl is talented.
Yeah, and she carries herself well next to all of the expectations of a superhero character. Does a wonderful job of downplaying and of being the very sarcastic teen in the midst of all of the things that are going on. But the best part of the whole deal for me was how beautifully Jake Gyllenhaal executes the character of Mysterio, and how he makes it work. All of the pieces that, because I go into it
so much
like
for a short review.
I go into it like so many others did, knowing that Mysterio is supposed to be a bad guy. He's being
I
portrayed as
didn't
the
know
good
that.
guy. Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know.
So they go into it seeing him be supposed to be this good guy, and then being all surprised. I hear people going, "No way!" And I'm like, "Are you serious? What? Yeah,
Did you never watch the Spider-Man cartoon growing up? He was like every third week.
That's right. That's right. Oh, it's Mysterio again. You know.
I
one of my
watched it,
favorites.
but I was a little too young to remember.
So I really liked the way that was handled. I loved the fact that they brought back the actor's name that plays J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Bringing
this is gonna kill me. I just watched him on Veronica Mars.
and I love him on. I love him actually on everything that he's ever done.
Yeah.
Especially the farmers commercials lately. But because I was telling my kids, one of my favorite moments in Spider-Man that we never got was J. Jonah Jameson looking at the photos that Peter Parker brings in, going, "Crap,
Simmons.
crap."
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, crap, crap. This one's crap too, but I think we'll use it. Put it on the front page. Use the word menace. You know, I'm looking at that and I'm saying to my kids, "You just missed this," and there he is. Beautiful job, great connection. But wow, what a stunner at the end to just drop the surprise.
Ryan, you just saw it last night.
No, like 8 hours ago.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the first Spider-Man one, Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming. Good movie, very fun. Low stakes. This one, they took Spider-Man up and made him a little bit like it was no longer neighborhood Spider-Man. We're now putting him a little more in the
global category,
global and Avengers level things, because he is now an Avenger. They've done that, and a great piece, a great way to transition him into the lead Avenger, to take the role of Iron Man. I mean, it's literally the major plot point, the major arc for him in the story,
and for the Marvel franchise.
Yeah, who's going to step up now that Iron Man is gone? If something else happens, I mean, they literally have 3 reporters ask him variations of that question at some point in the movie.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. The visual, I love the visuals later in the film when he's building his suit again, and it's like Iron Man 1 where he's assembling, the gloved hand and things like that. I really appreciated the work they did to make that transition and the arc. Jake Gyllenhaal, I cannot tell you how much, even knowing Mysterio, knowing this whole time what was going to be the case, I cannot tell you how much I sat there wishing, no, let him be a good guy. I want more of him. I want him to be
me too.
Be the good version of Mysterio from the multiverse and join the team, because you are just wonderful here. And then you're a great bad guy too. I want to hate you more than I can't hate you, Jake Gyllenhaal.
And then
you never saw Nightcrawler. I have no problem hating Jake Gyllenhaal.
I buy that.
Nightcrawler?
That was the one where he does the home videos and starts selling them to local news stations, so he's staging crimes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Great movie. But boy, is he creepy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's all. Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It's a great... Yeah, I think the MCU is going to be just fine going forward.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't have time to get into all that. No, we don't. So we're not gonna. So one last movie that's on my list that came out between Endgame and now is Brightburn. You guys even recall
I did
what
not.
this is?
Yes, Brightburn is the one about the kid who's got superhero powers, but it's a horror flick.
Yeah.
What happens if the kid that has superhero powers is on the side of Satan or the side of the evil or whatever?
Yeah, it's not Satan, but essentially, look, if you haven't seen Brightburn, I guess spoilers.
Wow.
I liked it.
It is a spoilable film. It is a spoilable story.
I would say that it is spoilable. I will give you one last spoiler alert before the very end. But anyway, so he is. It's straight up Superman. In the Upside Down, right? So a vessel crashes on Earth. A farmer couple in Kansas finds him in the woods. They've been wanting a child for a long time, and so they pick him up. And then it turns out that he's evil. Or at the very least, the ship that crashed is kind of connected to him, and when it activates his evility, his evilness, or whatever. And so throughout the movie, he's kind of not sure if he's going to be evil, but he's having these urges to hurt people and whatnot. And yeah, he does. He's smashing skulls and blowing things up, and yeah, it goes there. You know, shards of glass through the eyes and all this stuff, and it's pretty nasty. So if you have the stomach for that sort of thing, then it is really well done. I like all the performances in it. I like the idea of evil Superman, and they do leave it open for a sequel at the end. So here's your last final spoiler alert, but I don't think you guys are going to care too much.
No.
So if you haven't seen it, spoiler, he ends up killing both of his parents. Ma and Pa Kent, for lack of a better word, because I don't remember what their names are. Yeah, he murders them both and makes it look like an accident, and so the entire world thinks that he's the tragic victim of several accidents that have taken his family and people in the town and whatnot. But there's a few people who know that he is evil. But the world doesn't, and so now he's got limitless powers and is off to conquer the world.
Gee, sounds an awful lot like The Boys.
Well, so what it is, yeah, I mean, it's this is kind of why I don't hate the Zack Snyder verse as much as everybody else does, because I think that with flaws in execution that I totally agree with, I understand that. One thing that I like is that it asks interesting questions, like what would actually happen if Superman destroyed all of Metropolis in a battle with General Zod? You know, how would human beings react if it turned out that God was real and he wore a cape and he just murdered everybody you ever loved? You know, what would you do? How would individuals react? How would nations react? How would the world react? And so I thought those questions were interesting. And so Brightburn Brightburn is much more focused. It's a much smaller movie than that, but it starts the process of really digging into those questions. And so I don't know if they'll do a sequel, but if they did, it would expand on that stuff. And so I'd be interested in it if it came out. If horror is not your thing, then, you know, don't see it, because it is kind of gruesome and kind of scary in parts. But I liked it. I thought it was well done.
Okay.
Ryan, any other movies? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I want to throw something out here. Hopefully we can talk about it quickly. Stranger Things Season 3.
Yes, I was just going to move on to TV. So, so we have Stranger Things, Jessica Jones, The Boys, and I threw Veronica Mars in there just because I love it. So, go ahead, Stranger Things.
Really short and sweet to the point. They continue to do a great job with the series. It's really enjoyable. It's just as ridiculous as all the other ones are, but still fits in horror. This one, they decided to go a little more creature feature versus thriller. Excuse me. And so it has a little bit of a different tone, but all in all, it's still a great series. It leaves you with some questions at the end. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I am so creeped out by Billy.
He is so good.
He's a
so
phenomenal actor and does such a great job in that role and everything. But yeah,
I mean, it's no Power Rangers. That was his real tour de force.
That was a fun show.
I liked it.
That was a fun show. But yes, I like what they've done. I kind of thought they might have wrapped up the series and kind of tried to tie it off with a nice little bow and say, all right, look, there's a trilogy, we're done, you know, and then if we want to, we can do a spin-off or do something else and revisit it. But no, they're going to keep going with it, and so now
I think is the wrong decision. I thought that was the wrong decision after season 1. I thought season 1 was almost perfect. And they should never have gone on with it. You know, it just, I'm speaking artistically, not commercially, right? It would have been just this perfect capsule of TV.
Sure.
You know, but they decided to go on with it. Season 2 was definitely subpar, but season 3 I thought it really picked back up. The story was much more interesting. It's much more fast-paced. And if somebody came and said, yeah, but the formula's tired, I wasn't that interested in the story, I would have a hard time arguing with that. You know, I liked it, but that's a matter of taste, I think, to a certain degree.
Sure.
But I will say that the ending of season 3 was just perfect. Loved it. You know, it's one of those engineered in a German lab kind of things where it's just like it's engineered to pull tears out of you at the end, and I really thought it was effective with everybody kind of saying goodbye to each other and all this stuff. So yeah, it's great.
And you get the best rendition of Neverending Story.
yeah. So it was good. Anything else to say on it? Todd, you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. My kids have seen it, and they're wanting me to spend some time watching it. And I said, let me get the show done, then we'll talk about it. The show's done.
But you have watched some of The Boys.
I have watched some of The Boys.
What are you thinking of that?
I'm thinking that may be a hard one for me to get all the way through. The level of gore that I've seen in it so far has been substantial.
So for you, it's the gore, right?
It's
sex and violence.
It's the combination. It's
Okay.
the combination. Violence, I'm not too. Violence I can deal with, because I recognize when you're dealing with superheroes, the kind of violence that goes on. The casualness of the violence in this film is startling from all of the characters.
But I think that's exactly the point, and this is very much along the lines of what I was talking about with Brightburn. Right?
I agree. It is a telling of a superhero story in a world that is driven by money, and in a world that the rest of us are impacted negatively in some cases by the outcomes of those actions. In every Superman comic, everybody loves Superman. In the beginning of The Boys, everybody loves Homelander. But you watch in this first scene where Homelander throws a guy several hundred feet in the air, and he comes down on a car about 100 yards down the road. Clearly, he's just been killed. And he stops and says, "Hey, does anybody want, yeah, I'll take selfies. Go ahead, take those pictures away." And I'm like, this is just sick. That no one stops and looks at that and says, "Hey, dude, no, you still can't kill people just because you can." It's going to be a film that asks some really interesting questions, but asks them in a very disturbing way. It already has. Some of the sexual aspects of the film and the way that absolute power corrupts absolutely, the way that theme is looking like it's going to be explored, it's going to be disturbing. So
well, I think
it's going to be one that I'm going to have a tough time getting all the way through it.
I'm interested in it for a few reasons. There's a lot of love for this going around right now. I'm not sure that I'm totally bought into it the way that a lot of people are, but I will say I am enjoying it. On the surface, I like the kind of Zack Snyder question of, how would the world react if superheroes were real? What would happen? This one goes a different route with it, and this one makes them into Hollywood celebrities.
Yes.
And so now they're managed by this talent agency or some
by
kind
a corporation.
Company. Yeah, and it's very much it very much looks and feels and smells like Marvel or Disney would if they were actually managing Tony Stark.
Yes.
Right, and so at least that's the idea. And I'm tentatively excited or interested about where it's going, because what it's done is it's kind of mashing up the superhero genre with the Me Too issue.
Yes, it is.
What happens when you have somebody in a position of such power that they're almost untouchable.
Yes.
And what do you do about that? And and so I say I'm tentatively excited because I think that's an interesting way to go. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it or how they're going to answer that question or what they're going to advocate for. So far it's been, sorry, spoilers, Todd, shove plastique up their butt and explode them to death.
Yes.
So, and that's the sort of thing where I'm like, I'm not quite into that.
It's going to be...
You're not into plastique up the butt, or you're not into the...
I've got some weird stuff, but that's not one of them.
I'll tell you what, though, having the thing that made me say, okay, I'll give it another 20 minutes, was Carl Urban and Simon Pegg. I saw the two of them in it, and I went, okay, I'm willing to... Because I like both of them as actors. I also like both of them as creators, their creative bend. I trust that they ask good questions and that they put them forward in interesting ways.
Simon Pegg so far has been criminally underutilized.
But I
Carl
expect...
Urban is a genius. How this man is not, top 10 A-lister, highest paid performers on planet, I do not understand.
It's because we can only have one Australian.
Oh, are you kidding me? They've veritably invaded, along with the Canadians. The Canadians and the Australians have taken over Hollywood, and I'm fine with it because they're really good. But anyway, yeah, I just love Carl Urban, especially in this, but in just about everything he does. So
yeah, it's good. So far, I'm very pleased.
Should we call it, you guys?
Probably.
We've been talking.
I don't. Is anybody even still
issue.
watching on the live stream? I'm just curious.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh wow, that's impressive. Did they just put it on background and they're watching us while they're doing like laundry or something?
I'm sure. I hope that. Yeah. Let's see. Cosmere. I'll just wrap this up with a few of your questions. Cosmere Podcast says, "Did you guys get the full intended sympathy for Billy from Stranger Things? It absolutely didn't work on me. It did for me. Not like, oh, Billy was a tragically misunderstood character. No, it's more like the things that happen to Billy you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy.
Yes.
That's the kind of sympathy that I felt like, no, that this dude is going through it. And no matter how awful he's been, he doesn't deserve this, right? And so by the end, when he kind of shakes loose the shackles of the Mind Flayer and tries for a bit of redemption, it was effective for me. So, yeah, I was all right with Billy. Let's see. Really liking The Boys. Seth says, I'm really liking The Boys, but I could see how some of it would turn people away, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I think that should wrap it up. Some people are doing dishes, by the way, Todd. They say they're doing dishes.
Oh, dishes, great. No, that's good. That's good. That's a step above laundry, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, dishes is fine. Anyway, okay, let's wrap this up. It's a long episode, but hey, we covered a lot of ground. Had some fun doing it, so hopefully everybody listening did as well. Thanks for joining us on the live stream. If you would like to join us on future live streams, go subscribe to us on YouTube. I don't know if you... Yeah, I think I told you guys this. I live streamed for 2 hours the other night.
Yeah.
We talked about Brent Weeks and played some StarCraft, and it was a good time had by all, I think. So, anyway, yeah, come join us on live streams going forward. Make sure you support the show on Patreon if you have the means to do so and the inclination. At patreon.com/legendarium. Go to Reddit and hang out there. If you would like a Discord invite, I can give you a link to that. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time. Okay.
Good.
Well, we're clear on that. We're still streaming, so just see if anything came up on here. Oh, Josh Harkey says that he's editing the Coppermind wiki while he's watching this.
Wow.
Okay.
What entry are you editing, Josh? I'm really curious. Oh, Megan's doing the dishes.
Of course she is, because she's a responsible individual. We love you, Megan.
So, anyway, yeah. And also, I should say, if you guys are watching the live stream, thanks for hanging in there. If you have ideas of what you would like us or me to do during the live streams, let us know.
I refuse to shave my head again, though.
That was fun. For me.
For you?
Yeah. I literally got to make you bleed.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Not that bad, though.
No, but bleed.
I was gentle and loving, Todd.
If that's gentle and love, never mind.
Oh, Josh Harkey says he's doing white sand stuff. It's in bad shape, as you can imagine.
Looking forward to more on that.
Maybe we should tell people watching the live stream and people who will watch later what we have coming up.
Yeah, we could do that.
And simultaneously work this out for ourselves.
Yeah. You're about to see a behind-the-scenes look at how the Legendarium really tries to figure out what we're doing. Like.
Yeah. It's what's the easiest thing to pull out of our butts? There's a lot of stuff in butts today.
You really are fixated, buddy.
I'm gonna slide a little closer.
Yeah,
to Todd
you
today.
may want to. You may want to.
Yeah, just
so
lean
I think
that way a little bit.
I think we've got the next thing coming up. We've got another God Emperor of Dune podcast that's going to be coming up with Jack Butler again.
Right.
That we're actually going to be recording, and then I think we're set to release that next week.
I don't know how far to push the Jack Butler thing because, he lives far away, lives in D.C. I don't know how, excited he is to do every episode. It's hard to gauge somebody's interest level. But he's so good.
Yeah.
that I want him on as many episodes as we reasonably can.
I think what we're gonna do, we'll do God Emperor of Dune. I want him back on God Emperor of Dune. We're looking then at putting together Heretics of Dune.
Oh, are you really planning on going on?
Yeah, we're going to go on. We talked about it last time, and we decided that we are going to go on to do Heretics. Sorry, Megan, you weren't here to cast a vote on that, but but Ken said that he was in for Heretics to go a little bit farther. Heretics really,
heresy.
Heretics really, it's worth doing. So we're gonna do Heretics of Dune.
Might as well finish it out at that point.
And Heretics of Dune looks like it's going to line up pretty well, so that we'll do our final kind of Dune wrap up. Right about the time that Comic-Con FanX is happening here in Salt Lake City, and so I don't know whether we're going to be able to link up with another writer, another author that is connected with the Dune series during that period of time for our wrap up. But we'll see what we can do. And then after that's done, as far as Blue Team, I think we're going to have contracts taken out on our lives if we don't get back into a little bit of the Dresden Files. So we're probably going to do 2 or 3 of the Dresden Files after that.
Blue Team is, in a way, busier than us as far as like we can see way further down the road for you guys than we can for Red Team, because you guys have those, but then also Starsight, the Skyward sequel.
Yep, the Skyward sequel is coming out in November.
And I just spoke today with a gamma reader on Starsight.
Oh.
And he said that it is not just one of Brandon's best non-Cosmere books, it's one of his best pieces ever.
Great.
Wow.
Well, we are certainly looking forward to that when it gets released. And that'll be, we'll stop everything as soon as that one comes out. So
Cosmere Podcast says that you're so close to getting hooked on Dresden, not just like interested, but hooked.
Oh no, we as a team, Ken and Megan both had kind of plowed some ground in that one ahead of time, and they said when we get to a tipping point, and it's just you're all in. And quite frankly, I think we hit that with Death Mask, because some of the things that happened toward the end of the book, I turned around and I said I'm wanting to read all of these. It's been hard for me to say, let's finish Heretics of Dune. I want to get back into Dresden. But Heretics of Dune has to be done. We have to do that. Right.
So, Ryan, what do we have coming up? Okay, so we got to finish The Hobbit, which is
ending. At the rate we're going,
end up
2021.
Going to end up taking us a little longer than we expected. I think Kyle's out for that one, unfortunately. So there could be an episode or two where it's just me and Ryan. And similarly, we are going to be moving on to Lightbringer after that. Mm-hmm. And the plan right now for people watching, and I'll alert people to this on what's that thing called? Discord and Reddit and all that. But I want to get that done as the beta, as the what do you call it? The ARC, the advanced reader copy would come out. I want to request 1 or 2 of those for us so that we can do a spoiler-free like day of review when it comes out, like we did for Oathbringer. But I haven't read any of them, so I've just started the first one, and Ryan and I were talking about this yesterday, and I kind of want to record those as quickly as possible as we go through them, and so it won't take me 3 months to read the first 4 books. Like I'm gonna be compressing that into 5 or 6 weeks probably.
Wow.
And then now that Ryan lives closer, thank goodness, it's probably a little more feasible now to say, hey, it's Thursday night, can we pop over and do an episode? Yeah. So I think we'll plan to do some of that for Lightbringer, and then invite on whoever else is able to. Todd, if you're able to keep up with any of it. Stephanie, maybe you can come on for some of it.
She's starting the book too, so.
Good. Anyway, so yeah, if we end up leaving everybody in the dust, I think we got to just keep making those episodes.
That's probably fair.
But I hope that you and or Stephanie and or whoever else can keep up and join in.
The release date for Burning White is October 22nd. So I would guess first part of October would be ARC copies.
Right.
Something like that.
Well, it's October 22nd. Yeah, that sounds about right. 3 to 4 weeks ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll email Brent, etc. about it. Anyway, speaking of which, Brent Weeks is supposed to come on the podcast about then. So around the 15th of October, we're hoping to air an author's shelf with him. talking about the Odyssey.
Are you really?
Yeah. I mean, this isn't official yet. We haven't actually scheduled it, but that's he was trying to decide between the Odyssey and something else. And so I'm kind of pushing a little bit for him to land on the Odyssey because I think that would be fascinating.
I'm already going to throw my hat in the ring if nobody else wants on for that one.
Yeah.
I
have a feeling Ryan will want on for that one.
I imagine Ryan will.
I've already disappointed Brent once. I can't do it twice.
So when we talk about the Odyssey, can we also talk about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Let's see. Oh, Josh says, tell Todd to read The Expanse.
Oh my goodness!
He was on and on about this in the last.
So The Expanse is on my short list for two things. One of them is for the Expanse series that is, I think, currently on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. I've heard, I saw the first half of the first season and had to stop because of time. I was starting to really get into it, but I realized it was taking up a little more time than I wanted. But then when I started looking at the books that were connected with it, I'm starting to say to myself, "Ooh, do I want to read the books first and then watch the episodes, or do I want to do them kind of tandem?" So, if you have an opinion one way or the other, if you've read and seen, feel free to tell me which one you think is better. Normally, books are better to do first and then the videos, but if I'm mistaken on that and there's a way to go, let me know.
Right on.
Because that is some awesome sci-fi. It is really good stuff. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Cosmere Podcast says, I've enjoyed Stephanie being on episodes, and I know some folks have wanted her to do Lightbringer if she's willing. Stephanie is very popular. I'm sure you've told her this.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it can be said quite enough. She gets way more compliments than any of the rest of us do. So, yeah, hopefully she'll
because she's not offensive like the rest of us.
That might have something to do with it. I have no friends, and I don't wonder why. Okay, so should we cut and run? I mean, it's 11 o'clock. You guys probably want to go to bed. It's a school night.
I do have to get up to work tomorrow, so yeah.
Yep. All right, so we're going to cut the live stream there, guys. Thanks for joining us. Keep an eye out. I'll try to be better about letting you know before we go live. But no... Ryan, I can see you right there.
I'm very well where you can see me.
Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, I'll check in with you guys on the live stream later. Thanks for watching.
Take care. Thanks much.